So with that, we'll go to our next session. We've got a presentation by Paul Williams, who's a country manager at Fortinet, and he'll be talking to us about online education today. And whilst he's getting ready, please don't forget to use the hashtag EISummit2017 if you're on social media to ask questions and follow the event. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. So yes, good morning. I'm here to give you the shock and the wow factor of life. I'm joking. So basically my company I work for is Fortinet. We're an international company. We obviously specialize in ICT network security. And I've been asked to talk to you today about education and obviously what we're seeing in education, but also just to give you an idea, the way forward with cybersecurity and technology. And it's mainly focused on, the K9, the higher education, the universities, research labs, and even in education with regards to government. With that said, the agenda I've put together, and obviously with the interest of time, I'll try and speed my presentation up. But basically, the bigger picture of where we're seeing cybersecurity today, what we're seeing from students, and the main factor I'm seeing from students today, the ages of anything between 9 to the ages of 17, 18 years old, inside schools, even some of the primary schools, is a big interesting fact of life, is that our kids today are becoming, I deem them as the golden children or the golden child, are becoming more and more sophisticated the way they're using technology today. And I think we've also got to be aware, with regards to school systems, that security has to become an imminent technology factor and a decision-making factor, because our students today will try and break, hack, and destroy our school systems. Okay, so that's the factor and the wow factor I talk about. I'll talk about the bigger picture. I'll talk about what security solutions we have today, so not to make it too technical. There will be a test afterwards. I'm joking. Okay, and obviously if there's any Q&A, let me know. So who's Fortinet? We've been around since 2009, over $1 billion company. We specialize in network security technology. And yes, we do cover the educational sector as well. And funny enough, most universities in this country today actually use Fortinet technology in many different facets and many different parts of their business as well. And I still believe that education today is a business. I know there was a discussion on fees must fall, but at the end of the day, we have to use this technology to protect not only the students, but also the administration as well as the lecturers, deans, professors that actually use this technology to their benefit. And like I said, on campus, a different discussion takes place. With that said, we're seeing a huge increase in cybersecurity threats across the business as well as universities. And the problem that you face here is that university students will try anything, okay? And new technology, hacks, malware attacks, and they download them for $10, $15, and actually can cost the university millions and millions of rands. So what we're seeing from a security point of view, we're seeing advanced threats taking place. I think a lot of us saw the WannaCry virus that came out 2 or 3 weeks ago. It obviously affected many, many companies around the world. And funny enough, it actually affected South Africa as well. So within that week, from the Friday to the Sunday or the Monday, we saw a huge threat in South Africa across the board, no matter which vertical sector you spoke about. That said, those 2 attacks were mainly based on ransomware and malware attacks, and some of larger customers in this country were also affected with that attack as well, where to the tune of over 6-7 million rand within one day. So that's a big concern. Okay. The problem that you're facing here is that these types of attacks will affect the business and university networks as well. That said, we also look at the way people are putting data into the cloud and the public cloud. And a lot of universities, schools, high schools, private schools are now starting to move their services and their educational functions into the cloud services. So we have to start protecting that cloud, and that public cloud, as I call it, because that's basically the cloud that gives access to the students. So when you start giving access to students, and if a student is not aware that he has a virus or an attack on his machine, he can definitely bring out that educational system down to its knees. The need for speed is important because, with that said, as network speeds increase, and we're already starting to speak with companies like Tnet in this country, which is the global or the globalized network in this country that offers high-speed internet access to the universities, technicons, colleges, and some of the high schools. these speeds are already talking about 100 gigabits per second. And with that 100 gigabits per second speed, we have to ensure that network security services and speed and applications are kept up with that as well. So today, Fortinet offers that as a service, and we obviously work with these large organizations to protect them as well. We believe, and I'll talk about this, is that we have an open dynamic system where we integrate to multi-third-party applications as well as hardware and other vendors, because Fortinet today is one of the founders of the Cybersecurity Alliance. So if anybody doesn't know what that is, basically what we do is we contribute any vulnerabilities. If you have any findings, we give information to the Cybersecurity Alliance team, which is a global thing, and that basically gets distributed to any other vendor on the marketplace today. So we help the cybersecurity ecosystem obviously protect their systems as well. And obviously security, people are saying we're not keeping up, but we believe we're obviously innovating and obviously keeping up to it, because if a threat takes place today, there's no longer a time where it's now a one-day attack. It's now down to sub-seconds of being reactive and pragmatic of those attacks happening in your network as well. So we basically show that to our customers. Many breaching points we're seeing today, and obviously those exposed where the learners are actually the people attacking the networks. Okay, so like I said earlier, students will try anything. It can be unconscious, conscious decisions, could be a challenge from his friend, a dare from his, from another friend, or it could be a group attack. We just got to be aware this stuff is taking place. Just a quick threat map for yourselves. So that's obviously some interesting figures. I won't go through them, but yes, that's what's happening per minute, per week, and the total database of services. Now you've got to start seeing how security is becoming an imminent part of decision-making inside educational networks. With educational networks today, I believe education networks today are becoming an enterprise network. It's no longer just a pinpoint solution. We'll put a Wi-Fi device here, and we'll put a small firewall over there. The thing is, with kids now bringing mobility devices to schools, smartphones and smart devices, students having and teachers having whiteboard systems which are all connected to the internet, the educational systems themselves accessing the internet, all those points inside those systems have to be protected. Ransomware. So we believe both education as well as government are being affected by these types of attacks. I mean, like I said earlier, this type of attack happened 2 weeks ago, and believe me, we were affected. Okay, so we're not isolated. Although we're on the southern tip of Africa, we were definitely affected. And what you're also seeing is the type of vector attacks are typically the email, the smartphone devices, what we deem as endpoint devices, as well as your web application services. So any educational faculty or school today moving their systems to web, that is another point of attack that people will do. And this is typically where we start to see things like exam papers being leaked out. Okay, before an exam takes place, is how do you authenticate the student? Okay, how do you obviously ensure that he writes the exam and that is that person? And number 3 is when he closes the exam, or obviously finishes off his exam, how do you know he actually then, you track and trace that exam processing, marking system, and then obviously the results being pushed out to the back end of the system. So this is really where education is going. And obviously security is an element of that discussion with educational faculties too. Malware, and everyone knows that the internet is moving towards encryption. So today, if you're dealing with the likes of Google Books and many others, you will understand that all that data is now encrypted. What encrypted means is basically we put a lock and key over it, and if you don't hold the original key as the originator, you can't actually get access to the data. Okay, so now we're saying what we're doing is that hackers are now hiding viruses inside that encrypted traffic as well. So you have to ensure when you actually put systems down, you've also got to ensure that those systems obviously are aware of those types of applications as well. And so we can actually look into the traffic, and if there's a malware virus in there, we need to obviously unbox it, take it out, and strip it down so the students do not become affected in that environment. So what do? Is we believe that security systems inside schools have to become agnostic to each other. They have to become defined and aware of each other as well. So if it's a Wi-Fi network with a security network, they have to obviously start talking to each other, because if an attack is happening from a student's laptop or smart device, we've got to notify the whole network. So Fortinet has now brought this thing called Security Fabric to the marketplace, where we actually have components talking to each other at a network layer. Okay, and that's basically a part of our technology solutions that we bring to education as well. So that kind of puts it in a nutshell, end to end. So we believe no matter what solutions we provide to schooling today, if it's campus, if it's multiple campus, if it's head office, and obviously, we have more of the private schools now where they have not only 1 or 2 schools, but they have like 50 to 20 schools under their education factor. They actually have to all adhere to a security policy. The student has to adhere to a security policy, and the applications have to adhere to security policy as well. Right. I know in the essence of time I've been asked to cut my presentation short, but the rest of the information is my presentation. Just a case in point, if anybody is going to ask the question, we are working with a very large private school in this country. What I've seen with them, and we obviously use them as a bit of a test bed, is we start probing the students for certain things. So we'll test students on their basically knowledge of hacking. So we almost dangle a little golden carrot. And funny enough, we're actually finding some of the students coming back to us and actually accepting these challenges are becoming more and more clever. Okay, so I know we're all in the educational field. We're seeing this a lot. I would just say, talk to us. We can definitely help you in those discussions as well. Right, that's my presentation. Any questions? Yes, sir. Where's the microphone?
Thank you. Is it on? Thank you. My name is Mandla Mtembu. I come from the Accelerated Education Enterprises in Durban,
Good morning,
where our head office is. The question I have, I see that your company is more concerned with the attacks that happen to the systems. But when you look at the Films and Publications Amendment Act, number 3 of 2009, subsection 24, it speaks about the responsibility of, number 1, a person who is providing a service to children, such as Wi-Fi or internet or even chat rooms, etc., to make sure that there are firewalls in place to protect children from accessing adult material or any harmful material. I didn't see you address that. Maybe it's in the other part of your position.
So yes,
but I'm interested in that because we deal with schools and we're dealing with youngsters who are hot-blooded.
Hot-blooded.
Okay. Thank you.
So to answer your question, and this is something we deal with. So if any mobile operator or ISP or ASP, alternative service provider, internet service provider, provide a service today, we can guarantee that our technology is CIPA certified, which means it's basically Internet Protection Act certified. And this comes from the US. So we basically follow the US standard as well as the European standard. So we can actually tick all those boxes. There we go.
I've got a question, Paul.
Sure.
So what about attacks via social media platforms? People have access to it, and most institutions don't limit these social media platforms.
Sure.
Do you have a view on that?
Yes, sure. So as I indicated, our technology looks at smart devices. We look at the student themselves. We look at certain profiling, and we basically can track the type of device that's actually accessed the network. We can track the profile. So for example, certain students or student education bodies will have a student number. So when the student logs on, we know who the student is, so we can profile them. We can see where they're accessing the network from, if it's Wi-Fi or basically wired. We can then basically track the applications they're going to. So, for example, some schools give internet access, they give Facebook application or accounts to these students. We can track what they're downloading, what they're uploading. And we can also ensure that when they go to certain websites, if it's a blacklisted website or a whitelisted website, and some schools even saying to us that certain whitelisted websites have to be blacklisted, we can actually change them to blacklisted websites as well. So we can basically, as the student logs onto the internet, and all their devices, we can tell you exactly with a report with what that student has done historically and what he's doing currently.
Okay, a quick one. Is your system available to parents? For example, can I have your system in my home where I can be able to monitor my children and be able to see when they're logging onto other sites which are unsavory, Thank you.
Yes, so that's a good question. So that is the private school I spoke about, which is obviously our test bed as well. They give access to their parents or the kids' parents. So typically, when the kids drop school, the kids off at school in the mornings, they could sit in the parking lot, or they can go to the cafeteria and actually access the internet at the school's premise. And we're actually monitoring what those parents are doing. If a parent, for example, uses a smart device at home, which belongs to the student, and he gets a virus, the following day when the user comes back into the room, we actually then put them into quarantine if they picked up a virus first. And we can actually report back on that as well. And we can actually tell you, from a historical point of view, cached what website that smart device has gone to. So yeah, quite clever.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you.